Okay, guys, sorry for the backlight, but I wanted you to see the view. Here in Iceland on a horse farm, and hopefully I can get this uploaded from here. But just wanted to share some thoughts on episode 8, which watched for the second time here last night. First time I watched it on a boat in the Med. So Shay and I have been on the road, and it's been fun to try to keep up with the TV show and all the news and all the chatter with very limited internet access. But we've been managing to stay up to date with the show. This is one of my favorite episodes so far. The first time I watched it, I had tears streaming down my face during the scene with Juliet and her dad, and that's mostly what I want to talk about here. The reconciliation is just so powerful. Once you've seen it kind of build slowly, like what happened between her and her dad, and him being a doctor with the um, and he's been going along with some of the bad stuff, leaving birth control, and when he's supposed to be taking it out, kind of doing what the silo says. So you assume he's the one who betrayed his wife and by extension Juliet. And now you've learned about the cameras, you've learned about what's in the janitor's closet, what Sims is doing. And so at the point where you realize that he's a victim of the silo as well, and that he's innocent, is the same time Juliet realizes it. And I think, to me, the biggest moment in the show, and it's actually an episode worth watching with closed captioning, because there's a lot of very softly said lines that are hard to pick up unless you have the volume up or you're quick. But there's a point where Juliet's dad says that she never believed me, and Juliet says, "I know, I do." I mean, I feel myself like tearing up right now just repeating it. But that's the point for me where so much changes. And there's so many incredible moments in this episode. One is Juliet when she pulls the drawer out and doesn't open all the way, and she pulls out a folder, and what are we expecting there? Something on George, something on Juliet, something on Holston, Allison. No, it's Juliet's mom, and um, man, like it's just so beautiful how all this is interconnected and how it's revealed, and that it all goes back to the thing that made her flee to mechanical, which honestly might be the only place that she would have been safe and made it as far as she did. So, a couple of the beautiful things about this episode, it's it, it's so superbly directed and written. Um, if you watch it again, which this reason I put these videos up, because if anybody wants to do a rewatch and look for these little things that I'm picking up on, um, the way the transitions happen between the time periods always hinges on something in common between those time periods. Some are obvious, being in the farm, being in a ditch in the farm, arrested versus letting the rabbit go, like, and that contradiction, the freedom versus arrest. Um, Jules at her desk looking at a lamp and then thinking back at her mom putting the magnifier together with the lamp. There's the raiders bashing the magnifier and raiding her apartment, and then her watching her office get raided. There's all these cyclical things between her childhood and her present, and the way they're pieced together in this episode, um, it's so satisfying. It's just my favorite kind of stuff when I'm consuming fiction. That where you can tell that these aren't scenes that are just tossed together. These aren't just lines that are written. These are scripts that are just finely honed and then um, laid out precisely, directed the way they need to be in order to pull it all off. It's just not easy to create an episode of TV like this, and it's emotionally rewarding. There's so much revealed here. I mean, I'm not pointing out the obvious stuff because the obvious thing in this episode is Bernard. Um, when he mentions a hard drive, which it's not a mistake. He's saying he is timing this with Sims coming up behind Juliet, and he knows what he's doing. And there's arguments about who's good and who's bad in this story, and whether or not people are just doing their job. But this is a guy who's had to like kind of chew his tongue while Johns is getting her way and while Juliet is causing havoc. And so he's frustrated. And in this moment, he tortures Juliet. He deliberately tries to hang her out to dry in the most painful way possible to her and takes joy in it. And while you can justify a lot of things with him, there's a hint of evil there. And then again, there's the way Juliet has interacted with Billings and other people at times, punching people, throwing wrenches. How you choose to view people is whether or not you'll forgive them for these small transgressions, or you'll say that's what defines them, and that's exactly what I thought they were. And so that's it. There's a lot to go over with this episode, and oh my God, only two episodes left. A lot happens in these last two. Can't wait to talk about them. And after the 10th episode, there'll be a lot to talk about. We'll finally be able to reveal where my cameo happened if you caught it. And the finale, we can speculate on season two. I'm not going to spoil anything there. But there is when after episode 10, I'll come back and talk about something that was highlighted in episode 8 that we can't talk about yet because it spoils the next two episodes. But there's something that I've seen chatter online about, and I just love it when people think that a, a bug is a bug when it's a feature. There's something that's been annoying people, and it's so perfectly seated and deliberate. And I think it's going to be great when, if people figure it out. But definitely, we'll talk about that when the time's right. Anyway, that's it. Episode 8 so far. Just can't believe how it's ramping up. And boy, the next two are going to be bunkers. And you only have a few days to wait till episode 9, and then a very long wait before we get to episode 10. Anyway, peace.